If you're in the mood for an absolutely legendary sandwich, then you have clicked on the right video, my friend. Today we're making a porchetta sandwich on Italian bread with chimichurri, garlic mayo, and pickled peppers. Oh my God, now let's go. So here I have a massive pork belly. Now, technically this is not gonna be a porchetta, or porchetta if you wanna be a dick about it. Because I'm using pork belly and I could not find one with the skin on. You really want that skin on for that chicharron, like crunchy skin on top. But most of you are gonna be able to find a pork belly with the skin off much easier. So we're just gonna make it with this. It's still gonna be absolutely delicious. I'm gonna start by scoring into the meat side of this pork belly, about 1/2 inch, all the way down this way. And now we're gonna go against the other way, make these little squares. So just follow the pork belly along. These do not need to be perfect. This whole thing is gonna get rolled up here in a minute. This is just gonna really help all the seasoning and aromatics and spices penetrate deep into the meat. We're gonna season this pork belly with my famous homemade rosemary salt. This is just incredible stuff to have in your fridge. A lot of you already know about it, but here is how you make it. Starting by adding kosher salt to a food processor, some stripped leaves of rosemary, some picked leaves of sage. This one's optional for rosemary salt, but you can add some fresh thyme as well. Some garlic, and just a little bit of lemon zest here, straight in. All we need to do now is blend this up for about a minute. It's a good idea to pulse a few times along the way. That can be really helpful to get an even seasoning throughout. Just pop that green delicious sand into a Tupperware container. Pop a cap on it, keep it in your fridge. It will literally last for months, but I try to use it up within 2 to 3 weeks for the optimal kind of freshness and flavor. And if you want a whole video on this where I talk about it in more detail, that is in the top right corner right now. The next item on the agenda is toasting some spices, starting with some peppercorns and fennel seeds. The flame here is just over a low to medium heat. We'll just toast these for about 5 minutes. Just throw your spices into a mortar and pestle and let them cool for about 10 minutes. Once these spices are cool, we're gonna begin smashing and grinding until we have a nice little fennel and pepper spice mix. And let me tell you something, if you've never toasted spices at home, it's definitely something you need to try. The aroma that fills the house is intoxicating. Oh! I'll start by hitting our pork belly with just a touch of olive oil here on the meat side. Then I'll rub that in. We dust with our famous homemade rosemary salt. Make sure you get in every little nook and cranny. And I'll even just take a little bit of time here, just kind of rub that all in. I like getting messy. Next, I'll use my handy dandy little garlic grinder. Wish I could tell you where to get one of these, but I got it at a fair. I use this for garlic, ginger, galangal, turmeric. It really works amazing. I'll then take that garlic and just rub it in to this whole pork belly. Again, getting in all the nooks and crannies, all the way down. This is starting to smell really amazing with that rosemary salt. Just wait till we get the spices involved. Next up, our spice mix, the fennel and the pepper. Some chili flakes. And finally, the zest of 1 small orange. You might want to pull that out on the microplane and just kind of do your best. And the zest of about 1/2 a lemon. I've just tucked 1 string of butcher's twine underneath the middle of the pork belly. And then I'll take this edge and simply just roll it up nice and firm, like so. And we'll tie up that middle string right away. And then a string on either edge first. By doing the middle one first, followed by the side ones, and then filling in the gap, alternating back and forth from this edge to this edge, you should get a more even finished product. So I'm just working my way back and forth with these strings. And to get the strings in, you can just slide them under just like this and then go for your tie. All I'm gonna do now is trim the excess strings. Austin, we have a problem. Here's my arm for reference. The problem we have is this thing is so freaking long. But I have a solution because this little piece is gonna be done probably about 20, 30 minutes earlier. So we'll just pull it out accordingly. The last thing we need to do is just hit this with some olive oil. And then I'm just using some Maldon salt here, sprinkling it all over the top and sides. I'm gonna follow my buddy Robbie Bell's instructions on how to cook this porchetta. Amazing creator. If you wanna learn about cooking, definitely look him up. And those instructions basically start on a really high heat and then gradually turn it down as this pork cooks. We start by putting it in to a 425-degree oven to start. At this point, the porchetta has been in the oven for 40 minutes at 425 degrees. We're gonna reduce to 350 and do another 45 minutes. This porchetta sandwich would not be complete without some incredible chimichurri sauce to smother it with in the end. If you're making this, you could just get away with cilantro and parsley if you want, but I like to use a bunch of different herbs. So I have cilantro, basil, parsley, mint, dill, and chives. What I like to do for my chimichurri is divide my herbs in half. And by the end of this recipe, you're gonna understand why I do this. I'll show you in a minute. The only thing I'm not separating is the chives because I'm gonna slice these thinly and add them last minute. Here, I just have some boiling water and I'm blanching half of my herbs. And whenever you blanch anything green, you can see now on the camera just how bright green this is turning. Immediately immediately, you're bringing out that incredible color. And so by blanching half of our herbs, we're gonna get a bright green color, and then the other half is fresh for the flavor, because you do lose a little bit of flavor to the water. So just 45 seconds and then straight into some ice water. That's gonna lock in the color and stop the cooking process. I've just left the herbs in this water for about a minute. Now I'm pulling them all out and just squeezing out as much water as possible. And then I'm putting them onto a towel. You could use a paper towel as well. And we'll just fold this up and really just try to squeeze out as much water as we can. Now, using a blender or food processor, we're gonna add all of our fresh herbs. And look what our blanched herbs turned into. Just a little tiny portion, but that will bring so much color. Starting with avocado oil, and we'll start just by blending this. If it's not turning, just add a little bit more oil. After 30 seconds of blending, I'm adding shallot and garlic, as well as chili flake and the salt. Now we'll add the olive oil and we blend again. We'll get that out into a Tupperware container. You can just see the intense green color, and as this sits in the fridge, it will get even more green. But you may be thinking, Sonny, you're missing something here, the acid. And yes, it is indeed missing the acid. I've done that on purpose. Over 20 years of professional cooking, I've definitely observed a few things along the way. And one of those things is if I put lime or vinegar into this green sauce, within about 5 or 6 hours, it's gonna be swamp, overcooked green bean green. So what we do is get a separate container, and I'm just squeezing in some lime juice. That is the juiciest lime I've ever seen in my life, oh my God. And then I'll just cut it with red wine vinegar, a 50-50 mix. When I'm ready to use some of my chimichurri, I'll just take some out into a bowl and season it up with the acid. I'll show you that in a bit. The last thing we need to do for the chimi is just chop these chives straight in and just give it a little mix. Another 45 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We are now reducing the temperature to 300 Fahrenheit for another 45 minutes. All right, there we go. Another 45 minutes at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and here is our porchetta. So the color looks pretty nice, but we're gonna do one more thing. Stick with me, this is gonna be amazing. I'm gonna let this rest a little bit while I turn up the oven to 450 Fahrenheit, just to give it that last little bit of crispiness and color to finish it. Temperature-wise, our porchetta is sitting around 168 degrees Fahrenheit before getting that final return to the oven. And as you can see, this thing is just dripping with juice right now. Before we return to the oven, I'm just gonna dump off a little bit of this fat, because there is just so much. And then we're just gonna baste that over the top before returning to the 450-degree oven. Our oven is preheated and it goes. Another 20 minutes at 450 and we're done. Look, you're not gonna do all that work and then just slice into this porchetta right away. All the juices are gonna flow out. So we let it rest for half an hour at least before slicing. Before we put the sandwich together, I'm just adding about 2 teaspoons of the vinegar mixture to the chimichurri. Mix that in, give it a taste, and we're ready to build this sandwich. Moment of truth, my friends. It's rested for half an hour. Let's slice this thing in half. Oh, my Lord. Italian white bread, a nice huge piece, and then we'll slice this whole thing in half. Open it up, touch of olive oil on the bread, and I'll toast it in a pan over medium heat. We'll make some nice slices of our porchetta. Oh, God. Toasted the bread for about 3-4 minutes. Some garlic mayo. I'll put a link in the corner if you want to learn how to make this. Coming in hot with the porchetta. We'll do 3 big slices. Our chimichurri all over the meat here. So excited. Oh Lord, thank you God. And these are just some roasted peppers. I just burnt them on the stove, peeled them, and then put a little red wine vinegar, olive oil, and salt. Cap it, give it a little chef press, slight amount of pressure, and we just slice in half to reveal the most magnificent sandwich. Well, needless to say, I'm unbelievably excited. I think I'm gonna cry. I'm not joking, Marcus. Marcus, I'm gonna cry, man.
It's good?
Okay, Marcus, eat this. What do you think, dude?
Dude, this is like top 5 sandwiches I've ever had.
Top 5 sandwiches all time. Well, my friends, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something. I hope you're ready to make a legendary sandwich of your own. And as always, drop a like, leave a comment, turn on notifications if you want to be a psycho. And until next time, you know I love you and I'm out.